Rolling. I got to do a PSA, mate, because we have a certified fucking badass in the room. Like, tell me a story. Like, I'm blown away.
Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. So in terms of, I guess, like my cancer journey, or
that shit blows my goddamn mind.
Yeah. So my colon was very angry for a very long time. So I had inflammatory bowel disease for 22 years, and I was wrongly diagnosed too. I thought I had Crohn's disease, but I actually had ulcerative colitis. Anyways, that's a sidebar. But I was diagnosed in August 2020. I was really, really sick. Like, it was strange too, because I wasn't sure if I was having like a flare of like my ulcerative colitis, and very similar symptoms in terms of lots of pain and fatigue and nausea and blood, but like this was like next level. So like crime scene, just like excessive blood. Sorry, I'm TMI, but we'll just roll with that.
No. You fucking say the truth, man. Like, say your shit. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, literally.
Literally say your shit. Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm needing to use the bathroom more frequently, more urgently, like 20 plus times a day.
Wow.
I was really sick, and it was a tricky thing too, because I did think it was just like my UC, because I've had pretty bad flares in the past, but I did also kind of think to myself, like, oh my gosh, like my medicine's not working, like the codeine pills that I'm taking aren't like making my pain go away. Like I'm like really, really struggling. And in a way, I was lucky that I was in the system in New Zealand already. So I had specialists, I had contacts at hospital. And even though we were in lockdown in New Zealand at the time, I was still fortunate enough to be in the system, because people kind of already took me seriously in that sense, and got me to have a colonoscopy pretty quickly, and then saw that I had polyps in my colon, and then did the biopsies, and yeah, ultimately let me know that I had cancer. And it was almost like I was like in disbelief for one, but then also kind of like, okay, this makes a lot of sense as to why I've been feeling so trash. And I'm glad that I spoke to my doctors again and had those like uncomfortable conversations, because it is really tricky to kind of, I guess, like when you're physically going through so much as well, it's hard to kind of get that out too, because you're kind of trying to understand everything that you're personally going through.
Yeah.
And even with dating, because I was dating at the time when I was really, really sick, but I was just so self-removed that it was really hard, actually, because I was seeing like this lovely, lovely guy, but I ended up just fully pushing him away. And it was nothing to do with like my emotions for him, or like how I felt towards him, or how he was treating me. Like, he was literally so lovely, but I was just so sick that I couldn't deal with anything. So whether it was like work or a relationship or even friends, like I felt really removed almost. And then when I actually got the diagnosis, it kind of like, it was just a really weird time, and quite like almost like out of body experience as well, in a way. And I think, again, like strangely lucky that my colon had been so angry for so long, that I was kind of used to talking about her, and I was already able to have those conversations, being like, man, like I'm shitting a lot, you know, and like it didn't bother me to speak up about that. But it was really confronting in other ways of being, I guess, confronted with death, which I hadn't really experienced before. And then also not being able to have visitors at the hospital, and like so lucky because mum managed to get like a consideration thing. So she was able to stay with me for like some parts of my treatment. But I remember like initially, like after my colonoscopy, I was admitted to hospital straight after. And I remember just being in the emergency room, like seeing my mom like drive away as like the tears were just like streaming down my face. And it's just a weird time with COVID anyway. Like everyone's going through different things, because what is life? Like still like right now, like what is going on? The universe is crazy. And then fighting cancer through all of that as well was like, I still am processing as well. So I feel like there's just so much that even I think as well, when you're going through it, like I was in full survivor mode. So I was constantly like, okay, my next treatment's this day, and I have, I guess like a bit of time to recover here. And I know that I might feel good on like maybe 3 days out of those 2 weeks, or who knows, because every week is kind of different. But I was constantly just day by day by day by day. And I'm finding that in a way I'm still dealing things day by day. And it's almost like I haven't really been able to see future stuff yet, because I'm still almost like in that day by day zone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah. And then I think as well, like going back to diagnosis and treatment, and because I had 3 massive surgeries. So the first one, they removed my colon, so I bid farewell. And then I had a ostomy pouch. So I had where my small intestine kind of essentially came out through my tummy. And so I had a pouch for ages. I think it was just over a year. So that was really different in terms of life and pooping, because I pooped in a totally different way. And then I was going through all my chemo treatment. So step back to after surgery, I then did egg freezing. So 10 days after surgery, in my already really sore tummy, I was then injecting myself with hormones in my tummy. And that was probably like, everything was tough in different ways, but I think like one of the toughest things was injecting myself after my, like, it took me an hour, and I was just to like inject myself. Like my mum could have done it, or I guess if we really needed help, we could have gone into but again, it was like during COVID lockdown. So it was really weird times, but I knew that I needed to do that myself. So it was kind of like a mental block that I needed to kind of get through. But that was just one of the toughest things, again, because I hadn't really thought about kids or anything before. And I mean, you do in different ways, but not really seriously. And so I realized that I would love if I could have a child. Like that would mean the absolute world to me, whether or not that's like biologically or like adoption. Like I would just love to have a child at some stage. But I also just knew that I wanted to do everything I physically could to make that possible if I could be so lucky. So anyway, then I started my chemo treatment, and I had my ostomy pouch throughout chemo. And then after chemotherapy, I did that for 6 months. It was initially meant to be 3, but I was allergic to the first treatment, which was horrible. Like, I could not stop vomiting. I was ambulance driven. I was like, what's the word for this? Driven to the hospital. I think that was one of the moments where I was like, okay, I'm really close to death. And it was really tricky as well, because I didn't understand that there were multiple chemo treatments either. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, if I give up on this, like, am I just gonna die? Like, I didn't want to give up, and I didn't want to not have chemo, because I'd done my research not clearly enough, because I didn't know there were multiple treatments out there. But I was like, this is the route that I want to take. Like, I want to do chemo. And then, luckily there are other treatments. So then I did that. So I did Folfox for the 6 months. And then I had 2 further surgeries after that, where, gosh, surgeons are amazing, like, and our bodies, because I'm just like, whoa, how my body has like recovered, and just the skills. Anyway, I'm just like in awe of surgeons. I'm just like, whoa, what you can do is amazing. And oncology, just like medical specialists, because they truly are incredible. And I've had such amazing support throughout. And so then they made like this J pouch essentially in my body, which now I can poop again from my bum, which is wild. But so then that had to heal. So I then had like a loop ileostomy. So I still had the ostomy pouch. And then I had the reversal, I think it was in September. So that was my last surgery, September of 2021. And I am still very much, I guess, in recovery. Like, which is funny, because people are like, you're fine now, or kind of assume, well, not assume, that's like a wrong way to put it, but I think there's a tricky sense of, I guess, like seeing someone who has hair, because I guess like cancer is sometimes associated with people losing their hair with chemo, whereas with bowel cancer, it's not. I like my hair thinned and I lost my eyebrows, which was a vibe. But I think there is like a tricky, almost like layer of seeing somebody and seeing how they might look, whereas, you know, what's going, and that's like relevant to like so much of what people are going through, whether that's like mental health or invisible illness. But I think that is such a tricky barrier to how we see people and how we perceive them. And I think that's tricky for me, because I'm almost so aware of that from having had an invisible illness for most of my life. And then, like, say, I just started paddleboarding recently, and I'm so stoked, because that was one of my massive goals, was to get up on a paddleboard again. And I'm doing it, and I'm like, yes. But it was really challenging again, because I've had so many surgeries on my abdomen. That. And so my core is extra challenged, because it's been so much like not just not working out, but it's like there's been surgery in there like multiple times. And but yeah, like it's just a tricky one, I think, with healing, because yeah, again, like it's not linear, but then there is almost like, oh cool, you're cancer free, or cool, you've like finished your surgeries and you've finished your chemo, but there's so much healing past that, which I think is not as much. Yeah.
I'm a bit speechless. Like, that's one hell of a fucking journey, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, okay, you're not at the destination, but the destination is when we throw dirt on each other, and that's not what we want to get right now. But how old are you?
I'm 32.
That's insane to be able to go through all that by 32.
Yeah.
That's like, people don't understand going through that across the span of a lifetime, never mind the span of like a third of your life, like not even.
Yeah, it is really wild. And I think it's again a tricky one of like cancer really doesn't discriminate. Like it can affect anyone at any age. And it's a hard thing to like accept. I was kind of like, no, like I was meant to be a grandma. Like this wasn't meant to happen now. So yeah, it's a tricky one because it's kind of like, yeah, nobody should really have to experience all this stuff. Like I wouldn't wish what I went through upon anyone. And in a weird way, like I do feel lucky that I've been sick for so long because I really do have, I guess, coping mechanisms that I've learned throughout my life, like meditation and gratitude. And I have an amazing although that's like new, and that's like through the Cancer Society. Like shout out to them because amazing. And I think counselors are so underrated. And I think there's almost like, you know, like people say that you should get them when you're going through stuff, which yeah, like I believe that. But I think also like when you're not going through stuff, it's also like great to have a counselor. It's almost like, I guess, practicing meditation when things are stressful. But if you make that more like a daily practice, I feel like your life is more calm. Or I guess like a really good example is like if your house, you know, like looking after your bedroom or looking after your house where you're constantly kind of cleaning rather than getting this massive mess built up and then being like, oh, like, I have to do so much rather than constantly working on yourself or working on cleaning your house.
It's a preventative measure rather than a reactive measure, right? Like it's little and often rather than having to, you know, run a marathon. You just do a little jog every day, and I think that's really important. It's the consistency that you end up seeing the major gains, so to speak. You know, the day in day out type of grind, the 5 minutes to 30 minutes in the morning or in the evening or in the middle of the day, rather than, you know, going on these wellness retreats that takes you a month and you have to do all this crazy shit to kind of dig up all this like trauma. Essentially, it's like no, like bulletproof yourself every day by doing something.
100%. And I just rate that so much in terms of like everybody who's actively working on bettering themselves. And I think like I've gotten to this really cool place within myself too that I'm like, oh my gosh, like I am so proud of myself. And I don't see that in a way of like, you know, like an ego sense or a different sense. It's just like I literally have, sorry, I'm getting emotional because like I actually just am so proud of myself, and I'm so grateful for my outlook and the positivity that I like choose and the happiness that I choose, because it really has helped me. And I feel like I'm so lucky and grateful to still be here. Like there's so much beauty in the world. Like I go on my walks on most days and like I look out at the sea and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what? Like this is life. Like this is just so beautiful. And I'm so just grateful to bear witness to like the beauty of the world and continuously so.
I hope you know that's fucking badass. Right. And by you just doing that for yourself, like everybody else around is gonna be lifted the fuck up for that. Like that's a beautiful thing. You're able to see the world now through a different set of eyes because of whatever happened. right? That
Yeah.
that can change from person to person, right? That could be like anxiety, that could be a dad leaving, that could be fucking losing a football match, it could be whatever, right? It could be the end of the world or literally nothing. But if that thing is the catalyst for you to be able to see the world differently in a positive manner, like that's
Mhm.
like literally a superpower. You know,
Yeah.
you were able to
Yeah.
look out of that ocean and be like, wow, I can appreciate the way the waves fucking go. It sounds hippy dippy, right?
I know.
Fantastic, great. Let it be hippy dippy. It don't matter. At the end of the day, like it's between you, and you're able to find like some sort of like peace and calm and stillness and happiness from that, mate. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, yeah. I do feel like I'm constantly sounding more woo-woo to my friends because I am so like that is my happiness. And it's like I think it's really cool too. Like if you figure out all the different things that make you happy and then you figure out like what you're doing during the day or week or whatever and really like adjusting that to make sure that you're making time for those things. Like gosh, like just yeah, like literally going to the beach makes me so happy. And it's so cool. Like the power of like I think I really believe in energy as well.
Yeah.
And so whether that's around people or animals, like gravitate. Oh my god, I went to um this like house get together the other night and I literally gravitated towards this dog and like I was happy with the dog more than like the people.
Every time.
Yeah, it was great. And it's funny too because I had a really big dog phobia um before cancer and because I'd been bitten by two dogs growing up and one was really bad. Like there was this dog. I was walking home from school and this dog basically like was in the middle of the road and like almost like frothing and like just charged me and like grabbed onto my leg and like wouldn't let go. And so that was like a really traumatic thing for me as a child. And so I always was like a bit wary and held like more of a place of fear. And now, which is weird because I didn't think it would happen this fast, but I feel like I'm so good with dogs now. And that's really cool too, because now I'm befriending them at parties and yeah, it's a vibe. But yeah, I think energy is like such a massive force field. And I think it's really cool to be aware of how you feel like doing certain activities and how you feel like after that. And with people too, I think it's like really telling of how, like you feel with somebody and whether you feel safe or if you feel like, or like bad vibes. And yeah, I think it's really cool to just be more aware.
100%. I'm right there with you. I agree with you all the way. Like the way I live my life is by feel. I'm like, oh, well, what do you mean? What do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I'll feel it out. And then if I don't know how I feel, I'll take some time. And sometimes that might take a day or a year. It doesn't matter. I'll kind of just coast and do my thing for as long as I need to. And then when you come up with how you feel about it, then you just act upon it. And I think that's the way that we should be acting rather than like logically deciphering every code, right? It's like you can't logic your way through these things. Not
Yeah,
emotion. Emotion isn't logical.
100%. Yeah.
So what do you do to ground yourself then?
Um, I guess there's like different things that I do. Grounding myself is an interesting one because I think again that kind of goes in with nature, and I feel like having my like feet in the sand, or or even like playing guitar and like feeling it's like almost like body connecting with other things, whether that's like playing guitar and feeling your fingers on the strings or um like playing with the ring, or I think it's very much action based for me and doing things. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, we are physical creatures, right?
Mm.
You know, we're putting physical creatures behind computer screens and telling them not to move. And then we connect via, you know, miles and miles apart. And you're like,
Mm.
no wonder we all feel disconnected. No longer we don't hold the space all the time. And it's definitely not encouraged to like go off on your own and go figure it out. Right. Go to the beach on your own and go figure it out.
Oh, yeah, there's so much power in doing things by yourself. And
Mm.
I think it's so cool. Like I do like walks by myself and to a safe, like I will say that I still am like, Mom, I'm going here. or like my friends know, because there is still like a scary part of doing stuff being a woman alone. Like I think there is, which sucks, but it is still a reality. But again, there is so much power in doing things by yourself. And also I think being okay with yourself and your own company. And it can be, I guess, like confronting at times. But again, I think that even goes into friendships or relationships in terms of like you finding your own happiness and like you being okay by yourself or you doing your things independently. It's so healthy and it is really empowering to really get in that zone of like doing those things and really enjoying those things purely for yourself.
Yeah, totally. Like that's one of the main reasons why this is called the Nomadic Podcast, because like I just like
Guys.
I just start off, you know, like if I feel a little bit, you know, overwhelmed, disconnected or whatever, usually Sundays I need to be alone. Like don't fucking talk to me or see me on a Sunday, you know what I mean? Like I'm usually at the beach writing or somewhere in the hills writing or I don't know, disappeared or whatever. But like I get maybe once a year, I just again go by feel. I'm like, nah, I'm done with this. Tapping out, you know, I'm ready to throw in the chips. So I delete everything from my phone. I turn it off. I get in the car and I drive in one direction, and no one knows where I'm going, when I'm coming back. I go to places that there's no other human around, and if I do bump into people, they don't know my face, they don't know my name, they don't know whether I speak English or not. You know, it's kind of just like I'm just going to disappear. And whenever I feel like I'm good, I'll wake up one day and I'll turn around and I'll trottle on back and I'll carry on doing my thing. But I think there's so much benefit to it. Like I call it getting ill, right? You know, when you get ill physically, I mean, you fucking know this. Like you'll end up recovering from it, right? Obviously, if it doesn't take you out, you recover from it and then you're stronger because of it, right? That little virus, that little bacteria, you're not going to get ill by again because you get all the antibodies. I think it's the same mentally and spiritually, right? I think you've got to go to this place alone where you kind of get ill and sick of your own bullshit, right? Sometimes you just got to get sick of your own shit, right? And you kind of have a little bit of fist fight with yourself, you know, you don't like some parts of yourself. Sometimes you might hate some parts of yourself. Great. Okay. Kill that little thing off. You know, get rid of it, discard it, write it, burn it, throw it in a fucking lake. I don't know. Do whatever you need to do, some ritual if you want, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Like it's down to you. It's a lot of individuality, right? And once you've done that, you kind of reinvent yourself. I think too many people are either placed or place themselves in a box and be like, this is who I am, right? I think I don't like definitions to an extent, right? There's always devil's advocate to every point, but to an extent, like I think, oh, I'm a male, so I have to do this. You're a female, so you have to be that. And I think that's the best point, right? I'm like, no. Okay, yeah, you might be a female. I might be a male. Great. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do. I was like, yeah, okay, be self-aware enough to understand the cards that you've been dealt, nature-wise, DNA. You're a lady, okay? So you produce less testosterone. All right. So if you want to, like, I don't know, hit the gym, for example, it might take a little longer or whatever, right? I'm a dude. I produce less estrogen, or like societal wise, I might not be the greatest at communicating. Cool. So then I have to like work a little bit hard and it takes a little bit longer, right? It's like it swings both ways. But that doesn't mean like you can never do the other side, right? I don't get it. I don't understand where it's just like, okay, I'm whatever. I will only ever be this. Because we're organic. We're supposed to adapt. We're supposed to grow.
I think there's almost like maturity and not and being more open-minded and not being stuck in your ways, or
Yeah.
there's something cool being challenged too. Like if someone's like, oh, hey, like, could you communicate that better to me? Or, you know, like wants more from you. Like I accept, like I encourage that, because if, you know, if somebody wants more from me, like maybe I can't give that, and maybe that goes against my morals, or maybe, you know, like there's different things that people are going to ask from you. But I think it's a really cool thing too, to kind of, or, you know, you challenge yourself and I'm like, you know, want to achieve more or want to bring more consistency into something that you love so that you can be better at it and grow from that. But I just really, I think it's really cool to not be like, oh, that's just the way I am, and be really stuck, but to be like, oh yeah, I can grow. Hey, actually, I can give you this. And to really take in what not only you want from your own like narration of life, but also from what other people might want from you. And not like in a weird way, but in a like, you know, compromising, like cool way of really bettering yourself and then bettering your relationships from that, or bettering your relationship with yourself.
Yeah, totally. Like, you know, perception is reality.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're sat across the table from each other.
It's like I always find this so interesting, because I feel like we have like perception of ourselves, and then there's like the, you know, sorry, I get way too
No.
excited.
Go down that rabbit hole. This is gonna fuck me up. Come on, keep going.
Like I just find it so interesting, and I love, maybe this is like why I like reality shows, even though I realize reality shows are total reality, but I really almost watching people and how they act, and how different people have different perceptions of this one person, or get with ourselves, we might, or like how our insecurities can almost get the better of us at times, right? And like I think, again, almost how we were talking about having a superpower before, I feel like going through all that I have as well. Sorry, I'm like with my thoughts, but I feel like there is so much power in almost like realizing that fear is there, or having like that insecurity, but still doing something anyways, or having, I guess past stuff almost like triggers us or protects us from almost getting hurt again.
Yeah.
But new habits essentially will take us to better places. Yeah.
So
I'm totally
no, like this is the point of this conversation, right? Like I'm not fucking BBC or CNN or some shit. I don't have a list of questions that I'm like gonna drill you with. It's like no. Let's just fucking chat some shit, have a high five, you know, drink a coffee, and then just kind of get on with the day type stuff. But here's a concept, right? And again, I'm one of those wacky people that sits on a rock and writes some things and kind of drifts off and whatever. But a concept I came up with was well, I didn't come up with it, but it came to me with like, we're different people every day, right? So I wrote something down, and it's in the new book. But anyway, it says, every night I kill myself because every morning I wake up a new man. I then have 24 hours to figure out who he is.
Yeah, wow.
And I think that's it. I think that's the point. I think for me personally, again, we can only ever speak for ourselves. That like, because I struggle with a lot of things that happened, right? And they weigh me down. It's like I'm walking around with a ball and chain, right? And when I kind of like came up with this and then ended up finishing it in a couple of sentences, like a line, I was like, right, okay, that's what it is. That's how I feel. It's tangible now. I can also see it. And it kind of like let go of that. I took that ball and chain off and let it go. And I was like, I'm going to learn from this, but I'm not going to let it weigh me down anymore. And I'm not saying like I'm perfect now and, it's fine. Once you write a few things down, you're like freed of everything. No, that's bullshit. You got to do it every day. But I think when I think of that, it definitely helps me out. And I'm like, Alex, yeah, leave that alone. That's who you were. That's who they were, right? That's what the situation was. That does not mean it is what it is today. And that does not mean it will be in the future.
Totally. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's almost like there's something so freeing about being present as well. And like really like, yeah, cool. Like learning from different things and taking, lessons from stuff. But then, yeah, wow, that's a cool kind of like concept in terms of living new every day.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's not supposed to be in a sense of bipolar. We are completely different, right? Mm-hmm. But in a sense of we're going to learn, we're going to gain something from this interaction and this conversation. And then tomorrow, because of that, because we would have had like 12 hours of subconscious thinking on it or whatever, 20 hours or whatever, will then be slightly different, right? 0.1 of a degree different. That means we are different because we're not exactly the same. I think no two situations are ever the same. We're dealing with people that change, environments that change, weather changes, the world changes. We can't control that. We can control ourselves and kind of get into the realization of, okay, I'm going to change, right? The only constant in life is change. And being okay with that and learning through it and growing through it will release you of a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, 100%. And I think again, like stemming from that, it is how we react to situations too, that I think is almost like a defining factor of, well, not defining because we can continuously change and grow from that or from those reactions. But I think, there's so much that is out of our control. So how we react to certain things is kind of in our control, for the most part anyway. And that doesn't involve feelings, because I feel like feelings are in their own realm of like uncontrollableness. But then, yeah, like I think there's something really cool about what you just said in terms of how there's going to be certain things that change us on the daily. So yeah, I really like that. I like kind of like how you've conceptualized that and how you take that in and how it's kind of helped with anxiety. And yeah, that's really cool. I think it's really cool when we do find tools or words or what have you to really better ourselves or make us feel better. And yeah, that's really, really cool.
Oh, thank you. That's why I like writing, whether it's kind of in the side of philosophy or poetry or whatever, it doesn't really matter. That's why I like writing, because it takes a lot of emotion that you don't really understand, right? And you'll never truly be able to define it, right? I can't be like, oh yeah, it's exactly this emotion, like grief or fucking happiness or whatever it is, right? Scientifically defined. I'm like, I ain't an academic bloke. I'm not going to be able to do that. You can put me through any qualification possible. That's not going to happen, man. I'm like, okay, great. So I'm dealing with all this shit, and I'm like, cool, like what's going to happen? So you just kind of, through the power of the pen, you let it flow. And whether it's a fictional character, whether it's a real character, whether it's myself, whether it's someone else, whether it is like hit you in the face, this is what happened, this is what I'm feeling, or whether it's like super faint, it's about, I don't know, like in the waves or a coffee cup or some shit. Someone will like read it and be like, what is this? Was he smoking something when he was writing this or something? I was like, no. I was just kind of like in my own head, away with the fairies. And once that's done and I read it and I'm like, cool, I then get the feeling of what I was trying to get out. I'm like, that's done. I've then defined what I was feeling to myself. And I think what the funny part is, like, I usually forget them as well because I got a really bad memory.
I think that's cool though. And like, I write in a different way. And I think like throughout, like I write song lyrics and I like being able to express myself with words. And I think it is a really good release. And I think it's like really nice too, in terms of even like, I guess like I just almost like word vomit in a way first, and then collectively sort those words and find places for them. And some of them rhyme and some of them don't. But I think it's about getting that out there or out of you in a really cool way. And it's like quite kind, I think, whether like I'm writing about cancer treatment, or if I'm writing about the pandemic and not being able to touch people or hug them, that, you know, can be like, cuddles are so great. Like, so it's like hard when, you know, you can't do that. Or if someone you care about has COVID, you can't go, you know, anyways. Now I'm like scrambling in a different way. But whether I'm writing about like love or breakup, like I think it is really cool to, yeah, get those words out there. And I think as well, there's almost like a nice thought of something that will be left in the world, like when our time is up, which I think is really, really cool. Like, I think that's ultimately something that I just think there's so much to learn from different people, and there's beauty in like breakdown as well. So like when we share things, whether it's like through poetry or written word or songs, or like captions on Instagram, there's just something really cool about sharing stuff that then also makes other people feel really comfy to share what they're going through too. And I think in a way, I'm so grateful too that like that you've reached out to me, or other people who are going through cancer or have an invisible illness or have had a breakup or what have you, like all these different things. Like I feel so like humbled and grateful that people feel comfy enough to reach out to me too, because I think like I'm like that's so lovely. Like that comfort factor, and being able to have like really real and raw conversations that I feel our like TikTok, like our time span of our not time span, our concentration, whatever the
Attention
word
span.
is. Yeah, like there's something so cool about having like longer conversations that aren't just like 15 seconds and then you swipe, like, because there's so much realness that we have to like share and like learn from each other.
I think through processes like that, you create relatable immortality, right? Because we can fucking read, I don't know, like Nelson Mandela, for example, right? Like he's always going to be immortal, and people are going to read from that, and a lot of them aren't going to understand and can't empathize with it, right? Because their situation is so different. But if you're able to, keeping with the same example, if you read some of the stuff that he wrote, then he's got relatable immortality, because you can understand the emotion that went behind those words. You don't understand the situation. You know, I don't understand your situation. Never had bowel cancer. You don't understand my situation. Never grew up in Manchester, right? Never been a dude. Never been a lady, right? Like we're not going to get that, but we are going to get the emotion behind it. And I think you create something and leave something behind that then spans generations. So we can go back and read like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, right? And be like, oh, I get what he was on about I don't understand what it was like at 0 AD, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously we weren't around by then. I was, maybe not you, right? But we understand the emotion and the feeling. We're all still humans, right? We've not created this like cyborg-esque thing. We're not like bionic, right? We still have emotions and feelings. And I think that's what you're creating, mate. Like being able to write these things down, whether it's in song, whether it's just in a journal, whether that's like now bridging into the realm of like this internet social media stuff. Like you can create a caption, right, which could potentially be there forever. And people can see that across time zones, across all that. Like click your fingers, we disappear. That's going to stay, right? God forbid, but that's going to stay, and people are still going to be able to relate through that. Yeah, okay, it's hard because people are, attention spans are real short, and they want the instant gratification and that little bit of a dopamine hit, and they want to move on to the next one, right? I don't think a bit of a weird example, but I think Tinder fucked everything up, because people just think if I do this and go to the left or right or whichever bloody way it is, I don't know, like you just go to one way, it's like, cool, I'm onto something completely new. So then they're like, all right, grass is greener, grass is greener, grass is greener. I'm like, listen, man, it ain't all about that shit. Learn some stuff, right? But before you do that, fuck off and go learn yourself.
Yeah, hugely so. And I think, like the grass is greener where you water it. And I think it's tricky, like the world of, it's sad too, because it's like you want to make connections with people, because at the end of the day, that's what life is all about. I feel like connection and having beautiful relationships, because I think as well, like that's something that really helped me, like when I was going through stuff. And it's interesting too, in terms of like you really do, I think, figure out who your true crew is, essentially, when you're going through like hardship. And I think as well, like that's not just like a reliance on them. Like, relationships go both ways, but I think it's sad in a sense, because I did lose friendships, or I did, and maybe I grew differently too, and I changed and evolved. But I think those people that were there for me, like constantly, they didn't just show up at the beginning, but they were there constantly. Like my gratitude for them, like I love those people. Like, again, like so emotional, because people can be so great. And I think like seeing humans care so much and like really feeling so loved is so beautiful. Like, and it's not just, they're not just swiping on me like when I'm having a good, not just like, oh, like, Tamsyn's keen to go to the beach, let's go to the beach. It's like, oh, like, fuck, like Tamsyn's in hospital. Like, is there something that I can do? Or like, can I send her a cool song? And maybe she'll listen to it when she's going through chemo. Like, there's like little things that I just think is, and I don't know, and maybe that's like, again, like now, like past treatment and stuff, touch wood, like thank you. I think I really am almost gravitating towards those people again who like were there in those times, for good, like, and bad. But then I think as well now, like when I meet new people, I really crave those like deeper connections. And I think I'm so intense because of that as well, because I'm like asking all these questions, or I love talking about feelings and emotions and like woo-woo stuff. But I think it's really, it's like I'm dating this guy at the moment who is like so wonderful, and really like him. But I just think that like it's like whether that goes into something future wise or whether it ends, either way I value the connection that we've formed and those real conversations and having really like lovely experiences that are so like that we're so present with each other. There's just like something about that, and I think also having those conversations as well where you're almost like teaching each other different things and really like it's just anyways I'm really enjoying getting to know this person clearly, but I think there's just like those connections with different people or friendships or like even family. I think I really just continuously want to get deep with them. And I think because like surface stuff is cool in a way, or like having like, hey, how are you, because that matters, and like how we are and how we feel does matter. But I think there's something so cool about choosing someone and really getting into the nitty-gritty and not just being there for the good stuff but also the bad, because we're all human and we all have different feelings and different emotions, and we're not going to be happy constantly. And I think there's like that weird view too, like because I am quite positive, and I think that's like something that gets asked a lot, like people are like, how are you so positive? But I think people almost don't understand too that you can be positive and be like sad at times, or you know, like I think about having those feelings and really feeling them, and you know, like because it's an active choice, I believe, to be happy and to choose like, hey, I'm going to have a great day today. There's like a massive power in that, and it doesn't mean that things aren't going to go wrong, or like your toaster's going to stop working and you're like, I want a toast. But you know, like I think there's just, it makes us human to feel these different things, and I think that's what I really don't like about like the short attention span thing, or like the Tinder example of like what's better. It's like, man, like get to know your friends and get them to know them deeply, or because it's really like cool.
Yep.
And there's so much power in being kind, and it almost flows too. Like if you're going to be nice to somebody, like it's going to make you feel better for one, and like cool, like maybe they're not going to be nice to you, but like for the most part I feel like when you're nice to someone, that flows, and then you know, other, you know, it's just like a flowing effect.
I don't know where it came in, but I think everyone is now obsessed with quantity over quality, right? I think you know, the fucking creation of Facebook, I was like, how many Facebook friends have you got? I was like, I don't know, fucking 2,000. I was like, right, how many friends have you got? Like real fucking, like, I don't know, 2. You're like, right, so you got 2 mates. You don't have fucking thousands. You know, like people always, they want the finger in every pie, but that doesn't mean you're going to eat, right? Let's focus on like the pie in front of you, right? And you got to nurture the relationships you do have, because when shit really hits the fan, you know, like if you're just messing around with all the small talk and the jibber jabber, the wish wash, right? What happens? Like everyone just like kind of drops to the wayside. They can no longer get benefit from you because you're in a worse situation than they are. So then they leave. And then what happens? You're fucked. You're left on your ass, no one around. You're screwed, right? It's like, no, fucking, there's a human being in front of you. That's a complex thing. Life is complex. Life is hard. Humans are complex. All right. Figure out who they are every day. Figure out who you are every day. Hold the space for you. Hold the space for them. And like, that's how we're going to.
Holding space. I just, sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I think in itself needs to be like, yes, because there's so much beauty in holding space. And I think sometimes when we don't know what to say to somebody because we automatically want to make them feel better, there's something just so lovely about holding space and giving somebody room to talk or express themselves. And I think like you do that beautifully. So thank you for wanting to let space to really express and to talk freely without judgment, because I think that's really cool.
I appreciate that a lot. Like, you know, like who am I to judge at the end of the day, right? Live and let live. And the only thing I know is I know nothing, and that's how I live my life. Right, by those two statements right there. Like I do a Q&A every Wednesday, which was obviously yesterday, and one of the questions was, do you have any mantras, or paraphrasing or whatever? I was like, yeah, those two things: live and let live, and the only thing I know is I know nothing. Right, so I'm like, oh yeah, I could potentially might know the answer, but for me and my life experience, right, I not had your life experience, and I'm like, I think people are scared of being misunderstood, right? Or they think they're scared of being misunderstood. They're actually scared of not being heard. Right. And that was me for fucking years, mate. Like years. And I was like, you guys don't fucking understand me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, man, like, it's not that they're not understanding you. You're speaking to people that aren't hearing you. You're speaking to people that are not listening. Right. And you know, that spirals, especially with a dude that usually ends up going down an aggressive avenue, not physically, but starts wrecking you up. And I think just listening to people, man. You know, that's all you gotta do. Just listen. And then if you don't understand, ask a question. That's it. You know, you'll walk away feeling better. I'll walk away feeling better. That's a win-win. Rather than like fucking interrupting each other, trying to get one over on each other, trying to prove that I know more, you know more, or done more, or whatever the fuck, right? And I'm just like, this ain't a fucking dick measuring contest, you know?
That thing, and I think that's like where things almost go wrong in some level, or like even in relationships where people, they fight to be right. They don't fight for the greater good of like their friendship or that relationship, of like working things out together. It's like, again, wanting to be understood, but and proving that they're right, or like, one-upping each other. Like there's something really cool about like letting all that go, and like letting your ego go, or letting your righteousness like out the window, and really like listening to each other and holding space, and really just allowing yourself to humble the fuck down. Like it's really important.
I think in a relationship we try and fix the other person, right? And we're always going to have a bias, so we're going to like fix the other person in a way that we think is best for us, which doesn't make any sense, right? They are their own person, you are your own person. And I think it's always like, oh, what's better for the team or whatever. And it's like, no, motherfucker, this is an individual. You're an individual, right? The point is you're there to be like, hey, do whatever the fuck you want to do, right? Like you can do anything. Granted, there's consequences if it's like, you know, bad and shit, right? But you can do anything you want. And I'm here to just nurture that and water your plant, and you're going to fucking grow. But you're going to have to water your own plant too. You're going to have to do your own thing. I'm not like dragging your ass to Bethlehem. You know what I mean? You have to do some stuff too. And vice versa. But we always think, oh, I've got to do everything for the other person. I'm like, no, man, you got to be there for them.
Yeah.
And they got to be there for you. And guess what? Like, you're going to do your thing. They're going to do their thing. And if they do want to walk away, great. No problem. Because like you're independent, you're an individual, rather than like my identity is in this relationship. And I've been there, man. And it leaves you in the bottom of a fucking hole.
Totally. Like because I was like, you are my everything.
Oh,
Like I can't like never again.
And then
But
the cunt leaves, and you're like, okay, I'm nothing. Like, let's rebuild this shit
again into pieces. Yeah, like I think that is what is so important in a relationship, is really that independence. And it's like really, yeah, like you said, like them doing whatever they want, you doing whatever you want, and supporting each other through life. And like you should really add to somebody's life and like be supportive rather than needing them, right? Like you can want them and like you can love them and you can water them too, essentially, if you're overflowing. But I think, yeah, it's really unhealthy to put everything into a person, because I feel like you should really put everything into yourself and then like grow from that place of really meeting yourself deeply and them working on themselves, you work on you, and then you can work on your relationship too and bring different things to the table. But if you don't, look after yourself, at the end of the day, you're all that you've got. So it's really important. And I think like that's where self-love comes into. And I think that's something that I was actively, I actively do that on the daily, but I think like, especially when I was going through like treatment, I bought myself like an exercise cycle before my first surgery, because I wanted to be, even though I was really sick and really obviously not okay, like I wanted to be as strong as I possibly could going into my first surgery. And then when I was going through chemo, even if it was like 5 minutes or less or whatever, I really tried to actively do stuff, like to a degree that I could, like definitely listening to my body, seeing whether I could or couldn't do stuff. But I'm so small, like I didn't want to lose more weight, or I didn't want to lose muscle. Again, not that I'm a muscly creature, but I didn't want to, like I wanted myself to be as healthy as I could be amongst this crazy, like almost like monster attacking my body within myself. But yeah, I think that sorry to like almost like segue, but I think that almost comes into like relationships too. It's not just about whether you've got something going on that you need to nurture yourself for surgery or for treatment, but it's about doing that every day for yourself to make, and whether that's like not just physical, but really tapping into those like different realms of like mindfulness and meditation. And well, for me anyway, because I find that they do work, and I find that I feel better after I do certain things.
Yep.
But yeah, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. I'm just continuously.
Don't apologize to me. I'm not your mom. All right, you never have to fucking apologize to me. I'm just a dude from like a northern place.
Better. I always say sorry. Yeah.
No, don't go doing that shit. What was I gonna say? Oh, this also branches off from romance. Right? People are always like, oh, I have to do this for my potential partner. I was like, all right, thanks, Stacey. All right. It's not just for fucking, your fella, your lady, your whatever. No. It's like relationships between you and a friend, relationships between you and a business partner, relationships between you and the fucking barista who makes you flat white with a salted caramel shot and skinny milk, right, in the morning, right? It's like, it's everything. And I think it starts off with yourself, right? So if I didn't figure out who I was, we're always figuring out who we are, like developing, but if I didn't do the work with me and you didn't do the work with you, how are we supposed to hold this conversation? We're probably going to be like, oh, hey, how are you? What's the weather like over there? What time is it? What football team do you support? Have a great day. And it was just going to be like, fuck me, that's draining, right? or you could be like, just do your shit, man. And then the next thing you know, like these connections you can get with people in whatever way it is, potential business partner, a best friend, a mate, a fucking partner, it doesn't matter what it is. These like relationships you can get with another human being is like a millionfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's something again about not actively saying things because it's like you think that's what another person wants to hear, because I feel like that comes from like a disingenuous place. I think it's really cool to be free and have that freedom to just be yourself, because that again, I don't know, I think you can sense, well, I don't know if you can, but I feel like you probably could because you've talked to a lot of people, but you can almost sense when somebody's not being genuine or not really.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm a major empath. So if you start feeling something, I'll feel it. If you start feeling something else and change emotion midway through a sentence, I'll feel it. Like someone walking down the street's not having a good day. If I like look at them, I'll fucking feel it. It's weird. And like, you know, I've coached for 11 years. I've coached for thousands of people. And then I also do this shit and I speak to a lot of people, right? That's 2, whatever it is, episodes. So it's like, yeah, we've communicated with a fair few people, and you get to pick up some signs of those soft skills. And you're like, okay, there's something that this person isn't telling me. First of all, they don't have to tell me, you know, and that, I mean, I guess that's a side note. I just want to say thank you for sharing your story, because you don't have to do that. You don't have to tell me anything, but you can tell me whatever you want, right? And I'm not going to judge a single thing. You can fucking do what you want. Tell me to fucking click the recording button to turn it off or on. It doesn't fucking matter. You know, do your thing. That's who you are, who the next person is, who the next person is, who I am. So yeah, you can definitely tell. However, you know, whether I sit down with someone that I'm dating, whether I sit down with a friend, whether I sit down with a family member, or I sit down with fucking a potential business partner, I'm like, all right, tell me the fucking truth, right? I'd rather you stab me in the front than stab me in the back. Like, I respect truth.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I would rather, like, if it hurt me, I would rather the truth. Like, hurt me with telling me the truth and pretending and making me happy. Or like, again, like, I would rather be hated than loved for what I'm not, because I feel like we're not going to please everybody, and we shouldn't want to either. Like, there's people that I don't like, that I think morally their intentions are like not cool. Like, I don't aspire to be like that person. I'm not going to like them. And like, I don't, there's just, it's so good to be just honest, and like not to the degree of being shitty either. Like there's no need to just say stuff, but I'm just being honest, and then be like an absolute douche, because that's not cool either.
Yeah. Like, you also, I have a lot more respect for him, right? Like, I don't know, like business, for example. If someone's like, nah, we're not going to work well together, right? Or it's like, nah, my way or the highway, this is the way it is. I was like, well, I don't respect that, right? So we're not going to work together. However, I respect you for telling me the truth. So I appreciate your time. Have a great day. You know, good luck, God bless, type shit. I was like, oh, hey, like, this is how I'm feeling. I was like, great. Like, I fucking respect that. I don't have a glass jaw. I can get punched in the goddamn face as much as you want. No problem. But if you start sharpening your knife to stab me in the back, that's when things start getting a little bit nasty. All right. So like, let's put that one to the side. I got 3 questions.
Okay.
I'm interested. I'm like obsessed with these questions. I'm obsessed with people's answers.
Okay.
People listening are probably going to be like, Alex, ask some fucking different questions. But hey, fuck them. What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
I think stop worrying and start living. And that's from my mom. Yeah.
Give her a high five for me.
My mom is like the most wonderful, like the people, there's like this quote, and it's like human, like sunshine in human form or something. Like,
I've not heard that.
my mom radiates just like beautiful, genuine, positive energy. She is the most like giving, selfless person, and man, she has taught me so much in life. And I think as well, it's funny when people like meet my mum, they almost like understand me more in the sense of like woo woo, or like this different realm of like being, because which is beautiful. Like, it's such a compliment, because I'm like, thank you, that means I'm more like my mom, which I really appreciate. But yeah, she's really cool. And yeah, stop worrying, start living.
Well, if she's listening, tell her she deserves flowers.
She does.
Absolute
every day.
Legend. What's the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
Oh, I feel like I don't hold on. Nothing's coming to my mind. I feel like if somebody's given me shit advice, I'm probably like, fuck you. And try. That's a good one though. I really want to think about that. I think, well, okay, this isn't advice, but somebody said to me when I was going through like cancer treatment, somebody was like, oh, well, at least you're not like starving in like a different country. And I was like, this was from like, anyways, I'm not even going to mention her. Like, everything is relative, and like so many people are going to be facing different challenges in life, and like we all go through stuff, right? But I think the worst thing to do is to compare. And like comparison again is like the thief of joy, like the thiefest of thieves, like the thieviest girl, like hate you, thief. I find that like so stupid. Like, those words are the dumbest, because it doesn't, like, don't get me wrong, it doesn't take that away from like starving people in different countries, or it doesn't take me going through cancer treatment away from that heaviness, or to somebody scraping their knee when they fall off a scooter. Like, that hurts, like there's all these different things that we're going through. But I think it's really like wrong to compare or like not validate what somebody's going through, because we all go through different stuff. And I think, yeah, it's not advice, but I think that's like really dumb.
Yeah, we definitely get into a comparison game and either push ourselves or other people's feelings to the side and be like, that's not valid because someone's always got it worse. And I think there is a time and a place for that, for you and you. And just be like, Alex, fucking pick your shit up. There's people in worse positions to get you through it, right? Situationally. However, if you continuously do that, then you've got a real bad problem. You're digging yourself a hole. You're putting your issues in a box, and the next thing you know, that box is overflowing, and you're like, you got to sort it out. So definitely, like, your feelings are valid regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
Last question. What's the 3 words you would tell your younger self?
3 words I would tell my younger self. Wow. Like, I would probably say, like, okay, like a sentence or 3 specific words?
Either or, it doesn't matter.
Okay. I feel like That's a really interesting one because I feel like, because I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when I was 8, and I was actually really private about that for ages. Well, I was diagnosed with Crohn's, but misdiagnosis, blah blah blah. But I didn't really ever have someone that I knew was going through similar stuff, and I always kind of wanted, I guess, to be a person for someone like myself because of that, in a way. And I just remember my younger self being really confused and lost and yeah, really all over the place. So I think I would tell her, like, you are so strong. Yeah, and I'm really like continuously just proud of my younger self and how I got to who I am today. And I think there's something really cool about like just staying soft and staying optimistic and staying true to who I am throughout everything too. So yeah, I would say you're strong.
Wow. Mate, I can't thank you enough for that. Like that sucker punched me in the fucking heart, but obviously in a good way. Like that's never gonna be in a bad way. And I appreciate your honesty. Like I respect that so much. I appreciate your story and what's got you to this point, and who you are and your time. So thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time to chat with me. It was really cool to talk with you this morning.
Always, mate. Always. Like I pretty much have got a studio locked in, which will be in the next month or 2 months. So you'll have to come visit. We'll shoot the shit again, get a coffee, you know, just kind of like do the whole thing again, end up tearing up in person, which will be funny for everybody else and probably funny for ourselves too. But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate. All right, have a great day, and we'll chat soon.
You too.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.